Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape,
vinyl tape, carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. So listen, today, man, I am so excited. Got my brother Ed Roper on the phone. He is going to talk to us. Welcome to the platform, brother Ed. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Kevin. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you extending the opportunity for me to speak with you this morning.
Yeah, so we're first going to give a shout out to Kevin Smith, because I interviewed Kevin several months ago, and then after our interview, he was so excited. He says, man, I got some other brothers and sisters I want you to interview. And so you were the next on the list. And so I understand that you have a construction company. What is the name of the construction company?
Well, first, you mentioned Kevin.
Yes.
Kevin is near and dear to my heart. He's a big brother. He's a mentor. He's someone that I look up to in the industry. He's someone who has definitely charted paths that I only hope to charter in my career. So I appreciate Kevin with Access Services for being willing to even mention me as someone that he thought is qualified to follow his steps and speak with you about me and my firm. So I definitely want to give him his shout out and his kudos for that.
Yes.
But my company is NJR Construction.
Yes.
And we are a commercial drywall firm.
Yes.
We specialize in mainly three scopes of work, which is structural and non-structural metal framing.
Yes.
Drywall, and then also acoustical ceilings.
Yeah. Now you're in North Carolina?
Yes, sir. We're based in Charlotte. Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, good. Okay, so now when you say acoustical ceiling, what is that?
So acoustical ceiling is like your drop ceilings.
Gotcha.
You see it. Yep. So your ceiling grid and your ceiling tile, that white tile you typically
Yes.
see in a lot of offices, schools, that sort of thing.
Yes.
That's acoustical ceiling.
Now, how did you get started in this line of work, in this industry?
So great question. I guess to kind of go back a little bit and kind of frame how I got into construction for you. So I attended North Carolina A&T University undergrad.
Yes.
And I got my degree in business undergrad and graduated, went and, hit the job market like everyone else that graduates from college.
Yes.
And I graduated in 2006,
Okay.
December 06.
Okay.
Went and did some marketing jobs, did some B2B sales, which was great. Learned how to take no's, and worked for really some startup companies. So I got a firsthand look at, the ins and outs and the daily grind, if you will, the work ethic of building a company.
Okay. Let me stop you for a second. So while you were in college, you weren't thinking about the drywall industry, right?
No, I wasn't thinking about the construction industry at all. Doing undergrad. No.
Okay. Did you do any internships in companies within your interests?
No, did no internships related
Wow.
to the construction industry.
Okay.
No, sir.
I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Was doing that. Like I said, doing some B2B sales and working for a marketing company. And then, of course, we know recession hit 2008, right?
Yes.
So the job market began to get very limited. I was pretty good doing the B2B sales. I ended up moving from the Greensboro to Raleigh, and then from Raleigh to actually Boston, Massachusetts, believe it or not.
Okay.
And basically was living out a suitcase.
Okay.
So I was living with the owner of the company, sleeping on his couch and living out a suitcase for a little over two and a half years, almost 3 years.
Wow.
And you know what? I was born and raised in Charlotte, from the South, and man, I had enough winters in Boston that I could take. I mean, in Charlotte, if they say it's gonna rain too hard, everything shuts down.
Yeah.
But in Boston, I mean, it could be 6, 7, 8 feet of snow and snowing, and nothing stops.
Yeah.
And so a combination of those harsh winters up north and just kind of me getting homesick, I was away from my family,
Yes.
Didn't really have anyone that I knew up there. I felt it was time for me to figure out, make a change and figure out what I really want to do with my career.
Gotcha.
So I came back to Charlotte, and this was in late 2008, and decided, I said, I got to really decide what I want to do with my life and
Yes.
start to have some heart-to-heart conversations with myself. And I said, what am I really passionate about?
Yes.
And I kept coming back to construction.
Okay.
I can remember riding in the car with my parents, as far back as 5 years old, and just looking out the window and just being fascinated at different construction projects around the city of Charlotte that I saw unfolding.
Yes.
And so I decided, that's when I made the decision to start pursuing a career in construction.
Love it. Got you. So let me ask this question now. So in this time that you were away from your family, your friends, and your home, right? Are you coming back and forth? Are you making contact? Are you seeing what the industry looks like? What's going on besides you just missing your hometown? What's going on? Are you doing any research?
Not really.
Okay.
At the time where I was still, in Boston, I hadn't really decided yet I wanted to go the construction route. I made that decision more so once I got back.
Got you. Okay.
So at that time I was just more so homesick and tired of the winter, so I said I needed a change.
Okay. Now the owner, once you tell the owner that you want to go in a different direction, what's his thoughts? Like, I can support you. Thank you for your commitment. I can mentor you. What was his thoughts in terms of you coming back home and leaving the company?
Well, you know what? He one thing I can say about him was he always put his employees first.
Okay.
And he always wanted what was best for them. And I think he noticed that I wasn't, truly happy with where I was. And so he actually supported me in that decision. And, he just told me, hey, I want what's best for you first. And I think, you've seen, what it takes from a business standpoint to build and run a successful company.
Yes.
And so he knew, the amount of ambition that I had, even though I hadn't actually become an entrepreneur yet.
Yes.
So he supported me in that decision, actually.
Okay. So you come back home. What's your first thought? What's the process now to get this company started? What's the first process that you go through?
Well, so I get back, and my first thought was, I got to find some work.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I always kind of been a self-sufficient and a self-reliant guy. So a buddy of mine got me a job working nights, actually at a distribution center.
Okay.
And I decided, and I did that for about a year while, still making up my mind what I wanted to do. So that decision didn't come immediately. I didn't make it after having that thought once or twice. But over a year of really thinking hard about what I wanted to do, I said, okay, I want to go the construction route. And so in 2010, I decided to pursue my master's degree in construction management.
Okay.
And so that was the initial start, if you will, into me going the construction industry route.
Got you. Now what does that entail, going back to school for your master's in the construction industry? What did that entail?
So basically I had to apply to some schools that had good construction management programs, and because I was working at the time, I decided I wanted to do that online, so I did that online. And so enrolled, found a program at Keller Graduate School of Management.
Yes.
And basically worked during the night and went to school during the day for about 2 years, and then I graduated and got my degree in 2012.
Awesome. Congratulations. So now you still don't know for sure which aspect of the industry you want to participate in, though?
Not yet. No, sir.
Not yet. When does the light bulb hit you that this is where I need to be?
So I get my degree in 2012.
Yes.
I actually went back to school.
Okay.
A lot of school.
Yeah.
I went to Central Piedmont Community College in Charlotte, and because I was crazy enough, because of my experience of working so closely to an entrepreneur, to a startup, and just me having that fire inside of me in terms of ambition, I knew I wanted to actually go into business for myself.
Okay.
Now, I didn't come from a background of builders. My dad wasn't a builder. No other construction professionals in my family. But I was just crazy enough to think that, maybe I could make something happen with this. And so I went and enrolled at CPCC and took a class on general contracting so that I could get my general contractor's license.
Got you. Listen, you say, if it's going to start with me, it's going to start with me. That's all right. Got you.
That's right.
Okay. So now, you got your general contracting license. And so, but here's my thought, Ed. Throughout all this process, are you still looking at the growth and the development that's happening in Charlotte? Are you still saying this is where I need to be? I need to still be in this industry? Or were you
not really?
You're still not thinking that I need to be in this industry or relocating?
Yeah, I can't give myself that much credit. I'm not that smart to say I was looking at the industry, but I was at that time really just chasing my passion.
Okay.
I just had decided I'm passionate about construction, and I just felt that, I think I'm gonna take a chance on myself and just see what happened. I was just the type of guy that always thought I didn't want to wake up in my later years of life and have regrets saying I wish I would have.
Understood.
I knew that I would be okay if I tried and I failed.
Yes.
I knew that I would not be okay if I didn't try.
At all. Got you. Yeah, I love that. Because, typically a lot of entrepreneurs, they will tell you that if you look at my resume, I've got a lot of failure, but it only takes one time for me to get this right, and success is everything. And so, but a lot of times, entrepreneurs need to hear that self-talk. So I'm glad you said that. Thank you. So now, what was within the general contracting industry that was exciting to you? I mean, what was your first job out? And were you interested in on the commercial side, residential, or industrial side when you start getting into general contracting?
So great question. So initially, I enrolled at Central Piedmont Community College in a residential general contracting course.
Yes.
And, I always, and this comes from my parents, I always was intentional about sitting in the front of the classroom.
Yes. Good for you.
My mother was an educator.
Yes.
She taught third grade for 30-something odd years.
Yes.
And because of her, she stressed the importance of education. And she always said to me and my siblings, the students that sit in the front of a class, for whatever reason, perform better than those that sit in the back.
Yes.
And so that held true with me throughout my whole career in schooling. And so at CPTC, I sat in the front of the class, and that always translated to me building a relationship with my professors.
Got you. Now let me ask a funny question, right? So now, as an adult, does that still hold true for us that we need to sit in the front of the class when we go to workshops?
For me, it does, I still do that to this day when I go to different conventions, summits, workshops. I am intentional on making sure I'm sitting in the front of the class for sure.
And for me, now that I'm older, I sit way in the back because the cell phone is going off. I'm text messaging. I may have to leave, I don't know. But in the beginning, I do understand. I was sitting, I had one professor, he would say, always sit between the third and the fifth row. And I said, well, why is that? And so he went to the front of the class, and he was about 6'6'1", right? And he says, if you sit in the front row, I can't see you because I'm already overlooking you. You sit in the second row, you are just under my peripheral. But because of my height and sometimes how I like to stand, if you're between the third, fourth, or fifth row, you have my undivided attention. So I said, well, that makes sense. So, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's always more than one way to skin that cat, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's important to just find what works for you.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I built a relationship with my professor, and I went to him one day and I said, hey, my church came to me and they know I'm starting to go down the construction path. Yes. And they asked me if I could do a small project for them at the church. And he said, well, that's commercial construction.
Yes.
You're in a residential class. So he said, you couldn't do that project with a residential license. So, but he said, how about this? I teach these one-day seminars on how to get your commercial general contractor's license, and the commercial license supersedes residential. So he said, if you get your commercial license, you can do both.
Wow.
You can do commercial and residential construction, but if you just get the residential license, you're limited to just residential.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he said, so it was the first time in my life a professor told me, how about you just drop out of this class? And so that's what he told me. And he said, just come take my one-day workshop. And that's what I did. Okay. And so, that led me to taking the test and get my commercial license, which allowed me to do both residential and commercial type projects.
Wow. Now, question. Because your professor was instrumental in having you to make that change, did you and him work on some projects together?
We did not. His name is George Fawcett, Professor Fawcett. So I'm sure a lot of people know him within the Charlotte industry. But, we've maintained contact throughout the years, but we have not done any work together. No, sir.
Have you ever thought about working with your professor?
Actually, I haven't. It's never crossed my mind. So yeah.
Okay, understood. All right. So now that you've got your commercial license, what's the conversation with your church now? Do you enter into doing that project?
I did. Yep.
Okay.
And so we ended up building. It was a small addition onto the church, and we performed that project and did well, and they were happy with our performance. And, at the same time, I was doing a lot of residential type rehabs and renovations and things like that. So I started in the residential industry primarily.
Yes.
And then, I just knew I wanted something more than the residential side of things. For one, just being a builder, I like black and white.
Yes.
I don't like gray. So what I mean by that is when you're doing residential construction, a lot of times renovations, someone hires you to, redo their kitchen or redo their bathroom. It's really a lot of times through word of mouth.
Okay.
It's verbal. They pick out a vanity, a kitchen countertop, a sink, those type of things, and say, "This is what I want. I want you to put it here."
Yes.
But me, the way I'm wired, I perform better when I have blueprints to look at.
Got you.
And plans which clearly communicate this is what needs to be done. So sometimes a person can communicate and say this is what I want, but the way you interpret that could be slightly different than what they actually meant.
Understood.
And so that was what really was the thing that said, you know what, I think for me and the way I'm wired, I will perform better doing commercial projects versus residential.
Okay. Now, Ed, I've got to stop you because I think we missed this part, right? So So when do you sit down and start putting together the business plan to kind of give you full vision as to what's coming down the pike for you? When do you do that?
So actually, that hasn't happened yet, to be honest.
Okay.
Right now, I'm doing residential type projects. I've got the vision of kind of going commercial. I'm seeing that's probably where I want to go.
Okay.
And so, what I start to do is say, okay, I got to start putting myself out there and getting involved in the commercial industry. And so, what I did was I actually joined a local construction association with the Metropolitan Minority Contractors Association,
yes.
M.B.A, the acronym. And so that allowed me to meet and start to develop relationships with minority contractors specifically in the commercial industry.
Got you.
And so I started there, and then they led me to, make sure you get certified with the city of Charlotte, get certified with the county, Mecklenburg County. And so I took their advice and did those things, and that allowed me to start getting informed about small commercial type opportunities that the city and county would advertise for bid.
Got you. Okay.
And so now I end up going to what they call a pre-bid meeting one day.
Yes.
And I go to a pre-bid meeting. I'm sitting beside a guy, and just my personality, I'm an extrovert. I like to create conversation and just talk and learn things and find out. You never know who you can meet, right?
Very true.
So this day I meet a guy by the name of Jeremy Gibson.
Yes.
And he's already in the industry, an experienced commercial construction project manager, was working for a company which was Mouth McCullen Construction at the time. And so we kind of developed a relationship, and I would stay in contact with him. We would go to lunch. Well, Mouth McCullen Construction is a firm that was started in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
It was started and founded in the late 1970s by a gentleman named Lonnie Miles, who's African American.
Okay.
And his partner is I can't think of his first name, but his last name is McCullen.
Okay.
It may be Matt McCullen, but the company was called Mouth McCullen Construction.
Yes.
And they were headquartered in Columbus, but they had also open offices in the Charlotte market.
Okay.
So Jeremy called me one day, and he's like, "Ed, I think you need to come by and meet Lonnie."
Okay.
And I said, "Sure, just let me know next time he's in town, and I'll be sure to run right over," because he would fly in periodically, every week or so, just to kind of check on things, make sure the offices running according to his standard and that sort of thing. And so he called me one day. He said, "Hey, Lonnie's here." And I said, "I'm going to be there."
Gotcha.
And so I drop everything I'm doing that day, Kevin, and I head right over and go in, and Lonnie just tells me to sit down and let's talk. We probably talked for 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
And I just kind of told him, and for me, it was really eye-opening because I had never saw or met a very successful African-American male in the commercial construction industry.
Okay.
That was the first time I had met someone of that status.
Got you.
And that company, was doing north of $100 million a year, probably.
Wow.
And so he said to me, Ed, you seem like you're someone that's got a lot of ambition, and you remind me a lot of myself. But he said, you have zero experience.
Yes.
And he said, you need to learn this industry.
Yes.
And he said, this is what I'm going to do. I want you to come and work for me. But he said, I'm also going to give you the freedom to still keep your own company and continue to build your own company.
Oh, wow.
Now, he said, I'm not going to micromanage you. It's up to you to manage your time. So I'm going to give you full-time responsibilities like anyone else.
Yes.
But you got to be able to manage that while you simultaneously doing whatever you're doing for your own company as you continue to try to build that.
Yes.
But this will allow you to get firsthand experience and knowledge within the commercial construction industry.
Wow. And
so that really is what triggered and was like, okay, I think I got something here.
Yes.
And so working for them, they really open up their doors. And Miles McCullen is still a mentor, and everyone that works for that company is near and dear to my heart.
Yes.
They really rolled out the red carpet for me, Kevin. I mean, whatever it was that I needed, they provided for me. So if it was, you know what, I want to understand what I need to be looking for when I'm reviewing and reading a commercial construction contract.
Yes.
Well, sit down with our internal counsel or
yes.
lawyer.
Yes.
A construction attorney, and have a meeting with him, and he can tell you specifically what to look for.
Yes.
I want to create a business plan and really lay out my vision of what I want to do with my career in this industry. Okay, sit down with our CFO and go through this business plan. And because at this time, Kevin, this is funny, I had like a 16 page business plan.
Yes.
That I had typed up in Microsoft Word, and I thought I was doing something real great. and I showed it to Lonnie, and he's like, "What is this?" It's like you don't need a 15-page business plan. So he showed me theirs, and
yes.
and theirs was in like a Microsoft Excel format.
Okay.
And it was like 2 or 3 pages, and he said, "What you need to do is duplicate this." So he gave me the template, he gave me the model.
Yes.
But you need to input your vision
yes.
to this plan.
Wow.
And so that's what I did. And so that's where the business plan came in at, because that came about from really Miles McCullen saying, here's ours, yes. opening their doors, really exposing themselves to me and saying, you can use this as a template so that you can follow to lay out your own plan.
Man, that's fantastic. Let me stop you for a second. What I love about this conversation is that you had a mentor, right? Someone who saw
oh, yeah.
something in you and says, listen, I see the ambition, work with us, and we can work with you. How important was that mentoring relationship?
Oh, man, for me, it's been everything. I mean, I would not be where I am today without Lonnie Miles and the whole Miles McCullen team and family. So they have been instrumental in my growth and my development as a construction professional in this industry. So yeah, they will always be, they always have a soft spot in my heart for providing and extending an opportunity to me.
Now, Ed, let me ask this other question now. So just in general terms, right, how important yes. is the mentoring relationship for an entrepreneur or just a person in general? How important is that mentoring relationship?
Man, it's worth its weight in gold. Okay. I mean, it if you think about it like this, basically it's someone who has done what you're trying to do.
Yes.
They've already walked that path.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes what's more important than the advice you get or receive
yes.
is who do you get that advice from?
Understood. Understood.
And so I've always tried to be intentional with making sure I'm receiving and getting advice from someone who has done what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
And basically what it is, they're lessening the learning curve for you.
Okay.
So the things that it might have took them 10 years to do because they were just, doing it on the fly and learning as they go. Because you can have that direct relationship with them and they can talk about experiences and things that they've done to be successful charting those waters.
Yes.
You might could do it in 5 years.
Got you. Understood.
Yeah. So it's really allowing you to just avoid those roadblocks or those things that would hinder you from being successful along the way.
And then more importantly, right, it's the like you mentioned, it's the credibility of who you're receiving the mentoring from.
Yes.
That's key.
Very true.
Yeah, because that in and of itself sometimes can open up additional doors because they may say, well, it's someone who knows the effectiveness of who you are that will open up doors. I love it, man. I love it. So you've got this mentoring relationship going on. You're putting together your 2 to 3 page business plan.
Yep.
And now where do we go from here?
So again, just to remind you, we are NJR Construction. We are a commercial drywall firm,
yes.
Right? Now, Miles McCullen is a commercial general contractor, construction manager. So I haven't yet had the light bulb go off for going down the commercial drywall route, which is a specific niche, right?
Yes.
But the way that came about was, working for Miles McCullen Construction. Now, again, this is still post 2008 recession.
Yes.
Right? So let's say I probably started working with them around late 2012, 2013.
Yes.
And the recession hit 2008, right? So 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, it's still pretty dire times from an economic standpoint. But long story short, I really worked on some very challenging projects with that company. And so I got a firsthand look at how much the subcontractor market had been affected by the recession.
Understood.
And specifically on the projects I was working on, I mean, we had multiple subcontractors bail on us.
Okay.
I mean, they basically just walked away from projects. And I saw how much that affected the company. And I said, man, we probably put about, $60 million worth of infrastructure in place. And company basically lost money for the most part.
Wow.
And so then I started to have a light bulb go off.
Okay.
Which is about really seeing opportunity in dire times.
Okay.
Right? And so I started to look at the market and I said, well, there's really a big need in the marketplace for quality subcontractors.
Yes.
And because of my experience working on the general contractor, construction manager side of things, I had a firsthand look at the difference between quality subcontractors
yes.
and those that aren't quality.
Understood.
And so I said, okay, I could probably fill one of those voids in the marketplace, but still I didn't know what specific field I would go into.
Okay.
But I was just beginning to have those thoughts that, you know what, I need to find a specific niche.
Yes.
And you might think, well, why not just follow in the path of being a general contractor? And we did that as a firm for quite some time. But GCs, construction managers, they take a lot of risk for 4 or 5% margin.
Okay.
Subcontractors, you can take a lot less risk for 15, 20% margin.
Okay.
So for me, I said, well, why am I going to take all this risk for
Yeah.
4 or 5% when I could take a lot less risk for much bigger margins? For me, it came down to a math equation of, you know what, let's go down the path of identifying a specific niche in the marketplace
Gotcha.
that I could really keen in on for less risk for bigger margin.
Okay. Gotcha. I love it. So now, you've got that understanding. And how do you begin to get the word out? How do you begin to market your services? Are you still going back to the minority council, so to speak, to kind of share with them what you're doing now in the industry?
Yep. And so, you know what? A lot of people don't know this. You mentioned about failures, right?
Yes.
So first I created a commercial roofing company.
Okay.
The company was called Roper Roofing.
Okay.
That failed.
Okay.
Then I started Roper Construction, which was focused on just, commercial general contracting services and construction management, and did that for a couple years. And long story short, I met my two partners. So NJR is a combination of three of us. I'm the R.
Okay.
And then I've got two partners, Nelson and Jose.
Yes.
So I met Nelson and Jose at a Christmas party. It was a holiday Christmas party put on by MMCA. Remember, I mentioned I was getting involved with that organization.
Yes.
And then we partner a lot through that organization with the Hispanic Contractors Association.
Okay.
Which is HCAC. All right. And so I meet Nelson and Jose at this holiday Christmas party. And again, I talked about being an extrovert, meeting people, getting yourself out there, right?
Yes.
And those skills go back to me working under the entrepreneur doing B2B sales and marketing. That's where I really keen in on learning how to talk to people, take no's, and just putting yourself out there. So I get to chatting at this holiday party, and I'm telling Nelson Jose, I'm an up and coming contractor, just looking to continue to build my network. And they say, well, we do drywall. So if you ever need a good drywall, call us. Well, at the time I was building a new garage for a client out on Lake Norman, right outside of Charlotte.
Yes.
And I had just finished the framing, so I was coming up on needing to start to hang drywall. And I told them, I said, well, you know what? I actually got an opportunity for you guys right now. And they said, well, just give me a call. We'll come take a look at it. So I called them the next day, and they come out, take a look. And so I hired them to do the job.
Yes.
And Kevin, these two individuals, their work ethic shine so bright.
Okay.
I knew I had something immediately once I saw their approach to their work.
Yes.
It was the first time in my life that I felt like I met someone with the same work ethic as mine.
Wow, which was important. Wow.
Which was very important because I've always felt like I'm someone with an abnormal amount of work ethic. So to find someone with something that I felt was similar, I know that's hard to find.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so then I started to think about, man, these guys are really serious about their work. And they are experienced and knowledgeable about putting their work in place in the field, which is where I was weak at.
Okay.
Right? I hadn't had a lot of experience of actually working with my hands or, me actually doing the work. Most of my experience at this point have been from formal classroom settings.
Yes.
And then managing the work on the commercial construction side, but not actually doing the actual work.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
So I thought to myself, I said, man, they're really strong where I'm weak at.
Yes.
But I think I'm very strong maybe where they may have some deficiencies.
Yes.
Which is on the administrative, the business development, the marketing, the business plan side of things.
Yes.
Again, my undergrad degree was in business, so I understand business.
Yes.
Right? And so I set them down after their project, Kevin. I said, hey, guys, I just want to run an idea by you. I think you guys got a great thing going. I think you can really be successful continuing to do what you're doing.
Yes.
And I feel the same about what I've got going. I think I got something good going. I think, I can continue to build my company and be successful. But I said, what if we came together and worked as a collective?
Yes.
I think if we did that, we could be 10 times more strong and powerful and accomplish 10 times more than what we could do individually.
Okay.
And they bought into that idea.
Wow. Immediately, right?
Immediately.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I guess the same light bulb went off in their heads as it did with mine.
I love it. I love it.
So it just took one of us to communicate it to the other,
Okay.
and so they bought in.
Okay. Wow. So now you guys formed this relationship. Let me stop you for a second. Now,
Yeah.
Where you are there a high degree or a high concentration of minority contractors, people of color?
They are not. No, sir.
They're not, right? And then what about like unions? Are there union rules? Is it regulated through the unions?
No, sir. We are not. No, we are not a union state.
Got you.
Or city.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So if you were to look at the landscape so far, right? Why are minorities? Because let me stop for a second. Prior to the pandemic, right? You heard about these industries, but you really didn't see a lot of minorities at the forefront, right? We go through the pandemic, we go through George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all of a sudden now everybody's trying to correct these social injustices, and now it's like you got to have a black person on your team, right? It's like black folks are just coming out of the woodwork. Like, what's going on? So where have we been within the industry? We've always been there, but why are we now getting the play?
Well, I'll say this. I think certainly there's been progression specifically within the commercial construction industry.
Yes.
Over the past few years. But we've still got a very long way to go.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that goes back to, a big part of it is the construction industry as a whole is
Yes.
not seen in the same light as it was, maybe 30, 40 years ago.
Okay.
30, 40 years ago, it was, you could graduate from high school. I mean, I remember taking shop class in middle school. Shop class isn't in middle school anymore.
Yes.
So the knowledge of the opportunities that exist within the commercial construction industry, I think is limited,
Okay.
and is even more so limited to certain demographics because of traditionally you haven't had a lot of minorities chart paths and be successful. Because as minorities, what we need legacy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. We need people that we can look to, like how I talked about Lonnie Miles and how he inspired me to say, you know what, if Lonnie can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not in abundance. And so, that translates into, a lot of minorities just not knowing about the opportunities that are out there in our industry. But then also, of course, there's been barriers that have been put in place, intentionally, unintentionally, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
That has also helped to keep minorities out of those positions.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm happy as I sit here today that we've continued to make progress in that regard, but certainly we've still got a long way to go.
Gotcha. So now within your company, how large is your company now? How many employees do you have?
So we've got roughly 30 employees. We've got 5 in the office and about 25 in the field.
Wow. And how many projects are you currently working on now?
Currently, I couldn't give you an exact number, but we normally stay between 20 to 25 projects at a given time.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 to 25 projects at a given time. And so I talked about, forming that marriage with my partners, right?
Yes.
we were smart enough to date for a year.
Okay, gotcha.
So, so, just through my personal experiences and just understanding how, again, because I worked closely with a entrepreneur startup, I realized that, you know what, I'm gonna see my partners more than I'm gonna see, my significant other.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm gonna see my partners more than I'm gonna see my children.
Yes.
So I gotta make sure first and foremost, these are some individuals that I'm okay and want to be around for a large amount of time.
I love it. Yes.
And so we said, let's date for a year.
Okay.
And so we dated.
Okay.
We dated all of 2015.
Now what does the dating process look like? I mean, you don't have formal agreements. How do you keep the relationship tight at that moment, but loose?
Yep. So just like a relationship, there is no formal agreement, right? Okay. We haven't jumped the broom, right? Okay, gotcha. We like each other. We kind of think, it could go somewhere, but we aren't sure. So let's just see how it plays out. And
gotcha.
So for us, that meant, they had some existing relationships already, because they had already been operating as a small drywall company. And I had relationships, primarily at that time with the company I was working for, Malcolm McCullen.
Okay.
And so I went to them and said, hey, guys, I think I could bring a different value to you guys.
Okay.
By me focusing in and keying in on this specific scope of commercial drywall.
Yes.
And so that allowed me to be able to get opportunities with Malcolm McCullen. Of course, them being my mentor, they want to see me grow and be successful.
Yes.
So they help provide opportunities for the three of us to start doing projects and kind of learn the ropes and that sort of thing, on a larger scale. So literally our first project was, maybe 6 linear feet. We built a closet for a guy, honestly, at a karate studio.
Okay.
And we have crawled, walked, ran, our way. And this was in, March of 2016. So
yes.
we'll celebrate 7 years this coming March.
All right. Congratulations.
All the way up to actually last week, we were awarded number 43 for one of the fastest 50 privately owned companies, fastest 50 growing privately owned companies in the city of Charlotte.
Wow. That's wonderful. Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Wow. And so there's more growth, I know, ahead, right?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, we've got aggressive growth plans. I mean, we foresee us opening up offices in different locations along the southeast, with the next in line specifically being either Raleigh, North Carolina, or Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
Both of those markets are booming, and a lot of opportunity we see there in those markets. So, I do a lot of studying demographic shifts, yes, and things like that, and where the puck is going. And so we've identified both of those markets as probably being the next potential hub and flag that we want to plant as a company.
Okay.
And so right now we're already looking at opportunities in those markets and pursuing, the right opportunity as it comes about. We're being selective in that, of course. Again, we keen in on that crawl, walk, run approach, yes, to business. So we don't want to do too much too fast.
Yes.
But we definitely could see ourselves probably planting that flag within the next 2 years for sure.
I love it. So now, but here's the thing. Going back from your start, right? What were some of, yes, the highlight moments of your growth? What were some of the highlight moments?
Man, there's been a lot of them. Okay. I think about that first project, okay, right? I think about the feeling that we had when we were awarded that project, and the project might have been $3,000, right? And when you adhere to that crawl, walk, run approach, yes, to business, every step, for me personally speaking, has been just as fulfilling as the last one.
Yes.
So at one time, $3,000 was our biggest project, right?
Yes.
And then 30 grand was our
Yes.
biggest project,
Yes.
and then 300 grand was
Yes.
our biggest project, and then 3 million became our biggest project. And so, actually, we got awarded our biggest project to date since our inception last week, which was about 3.5 million.
Wow. Okay.
And so, you know, I always keen in on, man, this feels like the very first time.
Understood.
And I try to approach every day that I come into the office with two frames of mind.
Yes.
First and foremost, I want to approach the day like it's my first day on the job.
Okay.
I've got something to prove.
Yes.
And so I carry that chip on my shoulder. I carry that with me everywhere I go. I've got something to prove. I cannot be complacent. I cannot get comfortable. I have to prove my value every day I walk through that door and come in the office.
I love it.
The second thing is I got to work like someone trying to take it away from me.
Yes.
Because they are.
Yes.
And that's whether there's competition, whether there's a new company that's focusing in on our specific scope of work that we haven't heard about. Maybe it's a very seasoned company who has a lot more market share and a market presence than us. All of those folks want to eat our food.
Yes.
Right? And I just approach it like, I can't, this meal right here, I can't let you take. I need this one.
Yeah.
So those two forms of mine is really what keeps, you know, my personal engine going. And so, you know, you asked me about, you know, what time or what projects really gave us that start. I mean, each and every one, Kevin. Okay. Each and every project is just as important as the last. Now, I will say this, though. There has been certain projects that we've been a part of that you could say maybe means slightly a little bit more. I'll give you one, for example. We actually were fortunate enough to partnering and helping to construct the American Legion Memorial Stadium in Charlotte. Okay, yes. Which is actually the stadium for our minor league soccer team, Charlotte Independent. Okay. But this is a historic stadium in the city of Charlotte. So most people from Charlotte, they know about the history of this stadium. This is a place that, as a kid, I grew up. This is where we went to see fireworks every year. Okay. This is where you play big time. I remember my older cousin going to see him play big time football games when he was playing for West Charlotte in the late 90s, when West Charlotte was really good, winning state championships. Okay. And then for me personally, I actually played my last high school football game in that stadium. Okay. And so to have that full circle come back with an opportunity for me to be a part of a project where we totally demolish the existing stadium and rebuild a new facility there, which is going to be, a pillar for the community for many years to come. And so many people will create, similar type memories to the ones that I have. Yes. That one means a little bit more to me. I'll be honest.
I can see how that would. Man, that's congratulations, man. Wow. So we
definitely,
Ed, we've talked a lot on this platform, and you've shared a lot of jewels, a lot of nuggets. But what has been your number one nugget that you would like to share with as many people as possible as to how do you stay focused and how do you stay successful and hungry? What would be a nugget that would support that?
Remember your why.
Okay.
Why are you doing what you're doing?
Okay.
I think that's very important. I think also,
does the why change as you grow, or the basic aspect as to the why always stays the same?
Man, you know what? That's a great question. I think some whys stay the same and some whys, I think you always have your initial whys.
Okay.
But I think as you develop and grow in business, and progress, there may be new whys that come about.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So for me, initially, it was about chasing my passion, right? That's what I talked about a lot. As I stand here today, one of my biggest whys is providing opportunity and building people.
Okay. Say more about the building people aspect.
You know, I get a lot of gratification from taking an individual that's very green to our industry.
Yes.
And seeing their potential and seeing something in them that they may not see currently within themselves.
Yes.
And trying to pull that out of them and build them up to become the best person that they can be.
Yes.
That is very gratifying to me.
Okay.
And being able to witness that growth and know that we've played a part in building people. You know, we're in the construction industry. We're builders. And a lot of people think we build buildings. But in my mind, we build people.
Got you.
And the people that we build those buildings.
Got you.
You know, I read a quote one time, and it said, the only thing worse than building people up and watching them leave is not building them and watching them stay.
Wow. I love it. Wow. And
so yeah. Yes, sir.
No, I as you were saying that quote, I was also thinking about what would it look like if your firm, your company were to put together a small, almost like a vocational seminar where you would bring in young men and women and show them your industry. What would that look like? Have you ever thought about that? Because you had mentioned early on the number of people of color not having access to votech. What would it look like if your firm were to do a small seminar in that regard? If there's such a space like that you could occupy.
Yeah, I think it's not something that I've thought about previously, but I would say it's probably something we're open to. Yeah. I've done a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of paying it forward, right? Okay. So I mentor a lot of younger professionals within our industry. I make myself readily available. They can call me. Let's have a conversation. Yes. So I try to continue to lessen their learning curve. I've also worked on creating like construction academies and classes. Yes. Focused on minority and small business professionals, so that they can learn how to grow and develop their companies. And so, I do that by way of different organizations. I've done that through my role at MMCA. I currently serve on a board for the Carolinas AGC, and that's a big focus for us as an organization as well currently. And so I do that in some ways behind the scenes, Kevin. Yes. But in terms of just doing it directly from our company, it's not something I've thought about, but it's something I would say we're definitely open to doing.
Awesome. No, I love the work that you're doing, and I love succinctly how you just laid out this purposeful plan for the audience, and more importantly, not for the audience, but for your life. This was good, man. So listen, as we are wrapping up this conversation, and I don't even call it an interview anymore, any other nuggets that you want to share with us, any shout outs that you want to give to people? What does the future look like for your company, for your concern, for your growing concern?
Shout outs. I'll be shouting out all day. Okay. I mean, it's been so many people who have poured into me from different ethnicities, backgrounds, genders. I could really be here all day, but the nuggets I think I will leave your listeners with today is, again, focus on your why. I think focus on. So we have what we call the 3 C's within our company.
Yes.
And those are our core values. Those 3 C's are character, competence, and commitment.
Yes.
And I tell my team all the time, it's the reason why character's first.
Yes.
It's not commitment, competence, and character. The reason why character is first is because we want to do business with good people.
Yes.
We want our handshake to mean more than our signature.
Yes.
And we feel like a prerequisite of doing business with good people is first and foremost us being good people.
Yes.
Competence, I think we can teach. Commitment can be learned.
Yes.
But character, it comes from within.
Understood. Said
And
perfectly.
so focusing on being a good person is very key. And then, right now I've been thinking a lot. We're coming on the end of 2022, right?
Yes.
And we're heading into the new year, and this is around the time where people start to make their New Year resolutions and set their goals for next year. And, I do that. I make vision boards and all these things, but I keep coming back to 3 things that I want to continue to focus on improving on in 2023.
Yes.
Those 3 things are discipline. All right? You got to be disciplined.
Yes.
Discipline is going to help you get up and go to work when you wake up and you got a fever and it's 103 and you're throwing up and you're vomiting, and you know what? You still got to show up today. Right?
Yes.
So discipline, consistent, right? You're only good as your last game.
Yes.
I was a big sports guy coming up, and so I understand we're only good as our last project.
Absolutely.
It don't matter what we did 2 years ago for our clients. What are we doing today?
Yes.
And that's what they're going to remember, how you most recently performed for them. And then patience.
Okay.
Things don't come overnight.
Yes.
You can't build a successful company overnight.
Yes.
So discipline, consistency, and patience, I think, are 3 key nuggets for anyone in any industry that if you keen in on those 3 things, I think it'll take you far.
Ed, man, I could see you going back to college and being a professor now. Man, no, man.
Well, it's in the genes because I talked about my mom was an educator,
Yes,
right? So,
yes.
it's definitely in the genes. So who knows, what the future holds. I mean, I'm passionate about pouring into people for sure.
I love it, man. I love it. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and paying it forward. It's really important that for someone like me who, like I mentioned, has been poured into by so many folks.
Yes.
To also take that knowledge and experience that I've gained and pour that into others so that they can be successful.
I love it, man. This has been so informative, man. You took us from A to Z. I love it. I love it. So how do people follow up with you if they're interested in learning more about your industry and learning more about you? Give us a contact information.
Oh man, great question. So I'm not a big social media guy. I have no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter.
And we're not mad at you, Ed. We're not mad at you.
And you know what? I used to have those things, and the reason why I stepped away from it was because I started to find myself I'm spending a lot portion of my day on social media.
Yeah.
And again, I think about things from a competition standpoint. If I'm spending a third of my day looking at my phone, what's my competition doing?
Yeah. They're not looking
and if
at
they
their
aren't
phone.
doing that,
yeah.
Right. So I had to remove that from my life. Now I do have a LinkedIn. You can look me up, Ed Roper, on LinkedIn. I'm comfortable giving you my phone number and email. Folks can call me. My office line is 980-237-0002.
Yes.
And then also they can email me. My email is eroper, EROP as in Paul, ER, at NJR. N is in Nancy, J is in John, R is in Roger, -construction.com.
That's fantastic, man. That's all we need to know. Brother Ed, you have been fantastic.
Yes,
again, shout out to my man, Kevin Smith. Never cease to amaze me. It never cease to fail. Wonderful conversation, brother. Yes.
Well, I appreciate you again for extending the opportunity, Kevin, to just talk about me and my company on your platform. So continue to keep me in mind any way that I could be a benefit or add value for you. I'm here for you, brother.
Brother Ed, I thank you. Listen, let's talk in text. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Right,
we'll talk. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.